Yeah, in the glass room.
Don't be the animals. Not ready to do white. I love her. So that's huge.
Savings changes.
My body measuring that she disconnected her out of state. And it's like, oh yeah, it is not. Evil. Stop.
She actually did.
Love herbs, sorry.
I
think we also agree with us.
Yeah.
And many, no.
Yeah.
It's just going. Never taken a good going.
Amazing. Oh my God.
I accepted all this leave on the charge. Space. Somebody else phones up.
Never once she had felt worried. This time she said the entire hour and and she's done. This week she was show, she's confident, she's engaged. She's she's young.
Okay. I was wondering if that's me.
It's a weird.
Is that your chamber?
But it is.
Sorry,
And I see them.
I'm really ready.
I swear.
What was that about daylight savings?
Yeah.
She come back and make her more.
Well, and
Okay. Spent all afternoon fixing my board. It's like,
when they say extremely one or two. It's the caregivers are phenomenal. My son, with it, we for 5 years, but with it, my son went to bed. I do.
Should we go ahead and call the meeting to order, Chris?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right, thank you everybody for being here. We go ahead and do roll.
Scott Snyder, Chair.
Here.
Ryan Gale, Vice Chair.
Here.
Galen McAllister. Omar Alvarado.
Present.
Carly Rice.
Here.
Roger Williams is not here yet. Aaron Zeisset.
Here.
Thank you.
So that's.
We have a quorum. Thank you very much, everybody. I can get a motion to approve our agenda for tonight, please. Thank you, Galen. Second. And any discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you very much. And just a reminder, Inside Cover, tonight is our meeting where we are going to be awarding final TOT grants. The applications are being have already been reviewed, evaluated. Chris has compiled a lot of information. Everybody remembers that we had a record number of submissions for grant applications, 55. That is 8 more than last year. We had 51 that scored with a successful score for funding. The city manager has allocated approximately the same forecast for TOT revenue for 24-25 as was actualized in 23-24, meaning that even though we have 8 more applicants that were successful in having passing scores, we don't have more money. So we've got some very difficult decisions. Chris did a very nice job of listing some of our options, and there may be other options that come in our conversation tonight. We want to make sure that we're being very diligent and proactive. As many of you commented during the evaluation or the last 2 months where the applicants have been talking about their grants, a lot of effort went into writing those applications and thoughtfulness, and we appreciate their interest in helping make Salem a better place and the community that it is. But ultimately, unless Roger shows up, the 6 of us tonight are going to be making some very, very difficult decisions. So, go ahead and if everybody has had a chance to take a look at the minutes from our February 13th meeting, I'd entertain a motion for approval.
I move to approve.
Carly, thank you.
Second.
All right, thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. So we'll open up for public comment for persons that wish to address the board on a matter that's not appearing on the agenda tonight. All right, I don't see anybody commenting, so we've got action items. Again, as I mentioned, we're going to be reviewing the scores that Chris has helped compile. We've got our operators, we've got our capital improvement grants, and then we've got the event grants and project grants that we'll be looking at tonight. So if we can go ahead and just start, Chris, are you going to kind of take the lead on this?
I will see what I can do.
Okay.
In your packets and the packet that went out last Thursday, you can see the individual scores for each of the 3 types of applications: the facility operator grants, the capital improvements, and for the events grants that were received. So I'm just going to kind of scroll through these. They're in the packet. Hopefully you've had a chance to review that. Go directly to the summary tab on page 24. It's a little bit easier to see all of the grants in one space that way. But as we need, we may go back and look at the individual scores if there's questions. Let's scroll on down to that. So here's the first page. Hopefully everyone can see that. Not right up to that. There is an error on the dollar amounts on the facility operator side of things that was pointed out. Salem Multicultural, these are it was a cut and paste error. But you can see that the scores here are ranked from at least on the top one for the facility operators. It got ranked by highest score to lowest score. And then on the other ones, they're all in alphabetical order. On the capital improvement, well, not the capital improvement, but the events ones. And on the next page, so
The shady on these are ones multiple, who have multiple requests.
no, the shades on this one are the ones that did not have an 18.75 average score. So that means they fell below the passing score.
Oh, I don't mean the peak, I mean.
Oh.
Okay,
The gray.
shade.
Oh, the gray shading. Yes, the gray shading are the organizations that have 2 events applications, correct?
Haley of the Valley doesn't have 2 events.
You're right. Sorry, they got included accidentally in the shading. On the second page, so on this first page, this is what the allocation would be for funding all of the applications that we received. There was $330,500 worth of event grant applications requests. And then in the second column to the right of that is what those passing grants would be funded at if funded with the full dollar amounts request, what that would look like. This year, Scott pointed out a little bit, is that in any given year, when we do the budget, we allocate approximately anywhere from 10 to 15% of the anticipated revenues for the year for TOT grants. And this $791,970 represents that higher level of 15%. It is the most that we've ever allocated for TOT grants. And that just goes with saying that that's how we're anticipating a lot more TOT revenues than we have in the past. The next page, page 24, I believe is what that is, provides an overview of a couple different options that the board can review and look at. And again, on this, the facility operator grants, there was a copy and paste error on that. The 25.2 for Salem Multicultural being the highest scoring should receive the highest funding amount, which is the 56,360 amount. That being said, that's a cut and paste. I've made that correction in the spreadsheet itself. So when we do the allocation, we just allocate based on that scoring.
Well, that's the question. I have a question.
Probably be my question.
It probably is.
Didn't we decide to do equal for all the culturals?
That was an option that the culturals came up with last year. So at this meeting last year, all the culturals made a petition to the board asking for the funding level to be made equal. That's still an option. But historically, what we've done is based on whoever gets the highest score gets the highest dollar based on the percentage.
Can we advocate for that again? Is now the time? The facility operators have discussed it and we do want to divide it equally between the 9 of us. If it's an opportunity to talk about it now, I don't.
It is definitely an opportunity option.
That may be the easiest discussion we have.
Yeah, that's. Well, that's why it's about. You can check that off.
Yeah, and Galen, much like you, I forgot that it was something that they petitioned for. I presumed that was the norm going forward.
And
So,
thank you for your generosity.
yeah.
Well, the other question I have is that, Chris, is there a reason why it cannot be the norm going forward? Or is that something that the city council has to approve?
It is not something the city council has to approve. It is something that the board has the ability to adopt. With the funding, so this is the page that shows kind of the council policy. Whatever the dollar amount is that the city manager makes available, which is typically the 15%. That the only requirements are council policy has a split in there, where whatever that dollar amount is, 60% of that needs to go to facility operators. a maximum of 10% can be used for capital improvements, and then the remaining amount, whatever that is, a minimum of 25% at least, goes for all the events. And so this is also the page where that methodology for calculating who, based on the scores, you know, how those ranked out and what the dollar amount would be based on that information. But as again, the board is always welcome to entertain the motion from the facility operators to make that an equal payment.
And if we all stacked hands on it when we met a year ago, year plus, because we were hoping in part, as I recall, that we didn't have to discuss it every year because none of us want to be the one that it's your year that you're high or you're lower and then you're the one being for it or against it. So it's kind of like some years we all have been on the top and we've all been on the lower side of it. So that's why we were hoping that maybe it could be kind of an evergreen thing unless there's an exception.
And we're certainly advocating for cooperation, collaboration, networking, and things like that. So we're not trying to, you know, I mean, it makes sense that, and again, the history that I have, you know, there was a period of time where hey, you know, they wanted it to be, the operators wanted it competitive, and so we adopted the.
That's part of the reason why we have an application process every year, so that there is some level of competitiveness. Whether that's gets reflected in the dollar amount awarded or not, that's up to the board.
But I think the board could still be doing a review of the operator applications and having questions, or I really like this about your application. Should that be something that we wrap into the, you know, future grant applicants, and just to continue that fostering of collaboration and teamwork. But that's probably for a subcommittee to make a recommendation. We can put that in the parking lot and definitely for
Next year's.
type of thing. But Galen, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I would move that we equally divide the amount amongst all the facility operators. Yay, nobody's below it.
Yeah, what do you do then? And Aaron seconded that. It's like, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Vote. Thank you very much. That passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
That'll be easy ones though.
Yes, yes. Okay, and so the 60% equals the 475, 170, correct, Chris?
Correct.
And
And then there's going to be a little bit of rounding on that dollar to keep it at a $0.
Yeah.
Zero doesn't, or 10 doesn't always divide easily among 9.
Mhm. Right.
So it's somewhere in that 52,790 to 52,800 spot. Okay, I have to play with the numbers to make it rounding, eliminate the rounding error. Okay, so that's easily, we've taken care of the facility operator grant side of things. Next up are the capital improvement grants and the event grants, and you can take them in any order you would.
All right, again, let's do the easy first with capital improvement grants. We had 4 applicants, 3 passing scores. And we did increase that to 20,000 this year. And that's still a matching grant, so they have to have 20,000 in funding to receive the 20,000. It is on reimbursement only.
So they'll need to provide receipts of $40,000 worth of actual expenditure on the project to receive the 20,000.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Yes. Yeah.
First of all, thank you. I am forever grateful that you guys raised it to 20,000. That you have no idea how amazing that is for us. I do have a question though about why is it that particular section is matching as opposed to the other 2? Well, as opposed to the event. I'm just curious how that came about historically. if anybody has.
I think it's making sure that the event or the facility has skin in the game. That they're either getting
Gotcha.
donations or raising
like
funds separate. Yeah,
longevity,
yeah,
so-
we, you know, the public funds are being used to help get them over the finish line, but not just get them past the
Not
start
pay for
line,
it.
so. Yeah. Okay, so, any comments or questions about the capital improvement projects? If we could get a motion for approval for,
Do we want to talk about the event side of things first, or?
oh, sure, okay.
Oh, wait. I want to just segue for a minute because I think it's our responsibility to do this. I have questions on the budget, which is on the next page after the green page. And it's a super helpful to see, so I'm glad to see it. But it looks like we have a pretty significant carryover plan for 2025. Is there also a significant ending fund balance?
There is, but the plan is that we have city-owned historic buildings that have roof replacements. We did a comprehensive structural analysis the last year and a half, 2 years, that identified what kind of replacement timeframe we need to do. And a lot of the roofs are coming into that timeframe of replacement, which would be, I haven't seen all the quotes, but I'm getting $500,000 quotes for roofing replacements for like Bush House. So that's why we're maintaining that beginning and ending fund balance for the future years for those replacements.
Do you know what year that's expected to?
We still have to go out and get the final bids in for those, but those are going to be in the next 5 years. Those will be in
Is
the
there,
budgets.
so within this budget, is there a long-term capital plan? So we know kind of just that, like, oh, we're planning roofs coming up and next is whatever's after roofs.
So the roofs are in the plan. They're not in this budget year. They're in the forecast that was delivered to City Council in January. And they will be the ones that are going forward, the capital improvement plan. Those will be outlined in that CIP budget plan. The budget will be approving here in the next couple meetings.
So that's probably good for us to know, just to consider, like, oh, in the next year, 2 years, certain facility operators are gonna get huge amounts of capital funding, and others, because they're not city owned or don't need a roof.
Well, they won't go directly to the facility operator. They'll actually just go to the
Right.
the roofer.
But
who's gonna work.
right. But if we ever need to decide between, oh, we have capital projects that give 20,000 here and there, but oh, they're getting, they're gonna get $1 million roof this year. It'd be important just to know that, like, just to be fair.
I agree. We have a number of different facilities that are in city-owned properties that get
It's the
Different
requirement of the city to maintain those.
oh, yeah. of
Oh, I
course.
totally
Those-
believe in,
that's where
I
that's
totally believe in roofs.
I don't really want to, are you talking about penalizing for?
Not penalizing,
the
but
roof
balancing
replaced?
it. Yeah, so balancing it. So
I
like,
don't
oh, we're doing the roof, so we're not gonna do your optional reader board project this year, or, and it's only like this year, we don't have to decide between capital projects, but there might be time. And so it's just good to know that, like, how much is being invested in each organization. I like to know things, just to know, especially when, proportionately, if there's millions of dollars going out the door that are not in our control, it's just good to know if they're coming from the same fund source. That's what I like to know.
I agree.
Thank you.
We are a volunteer board who needs to know things. And make decisions.
So back to the events.
Yes, yes, okay, so Chris, if we can,
So historically, I guess option one would be the historical review, where we would fund all the applications until we run out of funding. So that's that option one. It was pointed out that there, when you get down to the bottom where the Casa del Cultura Telenese and the Elsinore Theater and the Salem on the Edge are the same score. They are all averaged out at the 20.6 average score. That's where the funding would run out if you were to choose option one's option. That would be, this is where we did go back to the find out, you know, who's first, second, or third in that race, basically at that 20.6% or 20.6 average score. I actually did go back to the lower to the high-low toss-out as being the way to determine which one would fund first. And the Salem on the Edge actually, after tossing out the high and the low score, came in at 21.7, I think it was. So that would be the one that would be funded first above those, and then that would leave whatever the balance remainder would be. The next one scored would be Casa della Cultura, was actually 20 point, let's see. So. Okay, so there it is right there. So the Casa del Cultura was 20.7, Elsinore was 20.2, and then Salem on the Edge was 21.2. So that's how those three came out about on that scoring. If option one was chosen, then we can play around and see what that. Option two is an option to fund all of the applicants that receive passing scores at 80%. And that means the $10,000 request would receive 8,000. The $2,000 request would receive 1,600. And that would leave a small residual of $3,600, which I don't know how you'd want to split that up if you want to do that at all. That's another brain teaser. Option three is similar to option two. It gives 80% funding to all but the organizations that requested $3,000 or less. There are 6 organizations that requested $2,000 each. They're the small non-501c organizations, the startup, new organization events. And then there are 2 events from the same Salem Orchestra for $3,000 each. That would then be funded at the full price, which means that Salem Orchestra would receive a total of $6,000 between the 2, which is still less than one of them at $8,000. So that's option 3.
and that takes care of.
And that takes care of
dollars.
That takes care of the fully for the funding of dollars. Option 4 is an option where you could take and eliminate one of the grants for those organizations that submitted 2 applications. There are, just as mentioned, Salem Orchestra has 2 applications, but they're only for $3,000 each, while the other 5 organizations are both applications for $10,000 each. So there is that piece of that. You can see the math doesn't solve the solution all the way. There's still cuts of $6,700 that would need to take place to fit within the budget.
And option 4 was only impacting non-facility operator applicants.
I think you're correct in that. It was those gray ones that were on the other page. Hoopla was one, Apple Pride. Festival Corral. Yeah, I think that was it.
Master Chorus.
Master Chorus.
Yeah.
And then option 5 is another variant of option 4, where it would fund 97%. You'd eliminate the two event applicants, one of those two, and then fund everything else at 97%. And then there would be a $1,200 residual. Again, splitting hairs. And of course, if the board has any other feasible options that fall within the guidelines of meeting council policy and any dollar amount available, we're open to for those ideas.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask for everybody, if anybody had any, like an option 6. Just off the top of my head. Well, in case like someone came up.
Send it out Thursday night.
Yeah.
Let me do some quick math.
I do not recommend, but I have seen ones in the past, like the highest scoring ones get 100 and the next batch gets 80, but I don't know if that's necessary. To me, the 80% funded makes the most sense.
So Chris, we were at 7,500 last year or 10,000 last year.
For the current year, I believe we're paying $10,000 for each event. We had made the change from 7,500 the year
When
before.
COVID got it.
Right.
So this year it's 10,000. So that's. But we funded 44 applications for the current year.
Okay, if I may, I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but if a $10,000 grant application was only funded at 80%, would the event still be able to go on? Would you still be able to market the event to make sure you're exposing yourselves to as many people as possible?
80% reduction out of $10,000. For us, in terms of marketing, you guys want out of area marketing, it tends to be a lot more expensive to pay for and prices to keep going up. It's a 20% reduction. Yeah, I think that would be challenging.
So I think part of this discussion too is focusing on, what do we want to focus on? Events, making sure as many events as possible get funded, or focus on organization. Because if our priority is making sure that, as many events as possible at least receive some amount of funding, we go with something similar to option 2 or 3. But if our focus is on organizations, making sure like the greatest percentage of what they ask for is funded, you would go with something like option 5. So, I mean, I can see valid reasons for going in either directions, but I'm open to hear what everybody has to say.
What's the increase? Somewhere in here, you've got the percent increase for the facilities operators grants over last year.
Just asking if you.
I think it was pretty equal.
Operators this year over last year.
I'm sorry.
What the facility grant for each operator last year was like a 40.
Yes. So
48.
the next page down.
52.
Shows the dollar difference.
So in the current year that the operators are receiving 48,000.
Oh, I see.
And it goes up to 52.
Can I ask a question? Is option 1 the least favorite? I haven't heard anybody say they like that option. I just wanted to shine a light on the fact that the Elsinore, Salem on the Edge, and Casa de la Cultura Peonese all had passing scores that are the same, 20.6. And if we use Chris's throughout the top and the bottom, the Elsinore would get none, which I don't think is an equitable way to do it when 3 people got the same score. But hopefully that's not an option you're leaning towards.
Yeah, I'm personally not leaning towards option 1, unless anybody feels strong for it.
Yes.
We can all agree kind of at this point that option 1 is, off the table. Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's just give some opinions or just kind of get feedback on option 2 and 3 because they're fairly similar in terms of just their philosophy of how to score.
I like option 3, because those tiny grants that are only 2,000, scraping more money on that.
Yeah.
Kidding,
Yeah.
And I think we do want to incentivize, people having events asking for the appropriate amount of money.
So first, sorry.
Shout out to Cherry Blossom Day.
Thanks, Brian. Second that first.
And Haley of the Valley, that Oakland didn't get that.
So overall, it sounds like option 3 is definitely one we're considering. But let's maybe talk about option 4 and 5 because those are also fairly similar in terms of their intent. And this is prioritizing the organizations, and it's sort of biased against organizations that filled out multiple applications. And then the focus is on just making sure each organization gets as much money as possible.
I have concerns about that because, not that I don't like it as a neat little solution, but we did not say that, because and a lot of them scored above other people who got funded, so I think it's not entirely fair, but I do think putting it in the parking lot for next year and considering having organizations just submit. That'll cut down on our work, have them prioritize events and solve this problem.
Absolutely.
It might also for the parking lot be worth considering that you could do one large and one small. Because all of these that are double, for the most part, are all large.
Right.
I disagree. Because if you're doing 4 events and you're bringing in the same number of people and you've scored in the right matrix, why is one event less than another event if the matrix of bringing in people and all of that is the same?
Right, for this year, I agree with you on that we let people put in more things and the scoring.
Right, but I still think that limiting the number may make someone not have an event. And that kind of takes away from what this is all about as far as bringing people into town. So if you have to eliminate having a grant, having the money from a grant affect you having that event, you kind of eliminated that from bringing people into town as well.
Yeah, and that's this consideration. Do we want to spread it out amongst more organizations or keep supporting the same organizations? Okay. So that it is a consideration, what the capacity is.
One thing I do want to point out too is that the organizations that applied for multiple events, their scores ended up being fairly similar to each other, like, Hoopla, Capital Pride, Master Course, because I think the issue is both of the event, like if you're filling out like multiple events, they tend to be fairly similar in terms of content. Like you have 2 concerts, for example. And the strengths and weaknesses, I think, are going to be, fairly similar.
Right.
But you have like, say on that team working Oregon Symphony that applied for a season grant. And by making people prioritize this and say, I'm going to apply for a season. And I'm gonna apply for $10,000 for the season, and I'm gonna figure out how to use that, if I get one shot at it, because the reality is we're gonna keep getting more and more grants, and we want to encourage and foster creativity in our community. And if all of our money is getting gobbled up by the exact same organizations over and over again, you're really not fostering new and innovative things. I understand that we have a lot of institutions, that we have things that we really love in this community, we want to keep them going, and I do think that there is a role for the tot in that as well. But this is going to continue to be a growing problem, because this pot of money is not going to grow at the same rate that people are going to be asking for this pot of money. And so at some point we do have to put limitations and guardrails on some of this stuff, and that means organizations too are going to have to make some hard decisions about how they're applying, what they're putting their money towards, and how they're marketing things, and how they're reaching out to new communities. They may need to care back too.
And so, oh, go ahead.
There was an online comment from Salem Orchestra that they were the organization that submitted 2 applications for $3,000 each. They said that if they would have known, they would have just done one for 6,000. So that was their comment on that.
Yeah, and I think that this debate about whether or not we're gonna limit is something that needs to go in the parking lot that we can discuss next, because we're not, I feel like we shouldn't penalize people for applying twice this year because there wasn't a limit placed on it.
Right.
So I think that
Well, you had a comment about the amount of funding available and that stuff. And, you know, that option 2 at 80%, you know, we had been funding grants at 7,500, and option 2 funds everything above that level. And the board had made the change from going from 7,500 to 10,000, which you can see that would have impacted the 80% funded everything, you know, at that $8,000 level rather than at the 10,000 level. So that we wouldn't have had the discussion if we hadn't raised it to 10,000.
Right.
Yeah, so that's another discussion dynamic for the board to take a look at. Is 10,000 the right funding level?
let's park not that conversation underneath the one whether we're gonna limit the number of grants. Because that is something we need to discuss, but it is not this
Right, yeah.
this year. We haven't, I noticed it, right?
Yeah.
Daylight savings, right
Yeah,
here.
I think what we for next year's scoring is we have such a small number of points that it's hard to get a spread. So I would recommend that we go to 100 point scale, just to make it so there is a bigger spread, because and a lot of our questions too, it's either 1, you know,
1, 2, or
or
3.
2, you know, it's such a small difference. And some people's applications are significantly more different than that. Like there is a difference between them. So
I think another parking lot item that are.
yeah, for next year's school, yeah.
Matrix. And I, since I'm leaving the board, I'll be the bad guy, but we really need to be diligent in our scoring. There's somebody that didn't submit scores, it looks like. So one of our 7 people doesn't have a representation on this. Is that correct, Chris?
That is correct.
Okay, so, you know, it's unfortunate because that 7th person might have made a difference in how this scoring came out. So, it's just as bad as somebody doing everything at 100%, you know, not doing anything is just as bad. So,
It's worse.
not even participating, but I think that is something that we need to, as board people, we need to definitely be diligent in our responsibilities and you know, cross the finish line. So Can I get a motion to eliminate option 4 and 5 from consideration?
You just want to go ahead and just pick the options we do want. I mean, I could do,
I mean, we know it's between 2 and 3, right, at this point.
it sounds to me we're feeling pretty good about 3 unless anybody has anything else they want to comment on.
I think I have to rescind myself because I'm one of the grant people there. And if I was to say option 3, it's a conflict because then I get more, then I would actually be funded at my whole $2,000. So.
And you can be bought before.
That's why I don't want to vote either way, because I don't want someone to say, oh, well, you're just voting that way. That. I think either one of those options is valid, like 2 or 3. That's my opinion.
All right. So we have a motion. Option 3.
I'll make a motion for approval of option 3.
Any discussion? All in favor of option 3, please raise your hand. Any opposed? So we're past 5-0.
5-0. 1 abstain. Okay.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I think with just the reality of financial restraints, this is the best case scenario. Chris, thank you for all the tabulation and recommendation for these different options. Appreciate that very much.
Yeah. Go ahead and shall we restate what option 3?
Yes, so option 3 is funding all of the passing grades up to Salem Orchestra side by side with Youth Symphony. All the way to Vietnam War, correct? Yeah,
So-
sorry.
So option 3 is everything that's, so fully funding everything that's $3,000 or less. And then everything above that is funded at 80%.
Okay. So it is to the Vietnam War Memorial with the passing score of 19 points even. And that leaves a 0 balance to delegate, redistribute.
And of course, these always, the events need to take place. This is a reimbursement grant, so there's a report and submission of receipts before the payment can be made out.
Do you know what rate people don't do events on, like?
Every year, there seems to be 1, maybe 2 that don't, yeah, it's very small. For one reason or another.
We've had people that couldn't get their venue, and so they've come to the board, said, can we save those, allocate those dollars for next year, next fiscal year?
I remember that happening,
Yeah,
especially with COVID.
Yeah,
But,
so, but they just couldn't bring everything together like they had planned. So,
Or they come to the board and present a slightly different event.
yeah. All right. This, the tourism fund report for February.
Well, actually, the next action item was the approval of the cultural tourism fund budget for fiscal year 12.
Oh, sorry. So that,
So that's on page.
and the convention center and Travel Salem are percentages, correct?
Correct, they're 25% and 10%. Essentially, you have so 25 and 10, that's 35, plus 15 for grants. That's 50%. And then the remaining 50% goes back into the city for the city-owned historic buildings and for landscape maintenance and for different capital improvement projects. New in this year, there are going to be trash compactors for Riverfront and for Marion Parks to help the park staff with cleanup of the events that take place, as well as any homeless encampments that are there in the area. So those are some of the major projects. There is a exterior painting for one of the city-owned historic buildings is going to be painted.
Any other questions regarding the Culture and Tourism Fund?
And then what happens if collections are more than anticipated? Just like,
That goes into the fund balance.
oh, so it doesn't. So we're projecting what the fund balance is. If it's higher, the money doesn't go back to the breakdown, like. The
So it's-
convention center doesn't get the percentage.
So only on the contract with our DMO and with our convention center do they receive percentages of actual received. Everything else is whatever the contract is for that. We don't increase or change the budget ability because revenues come in higher. That just falls through to the bottom line and then gets reallocated for the following.
So with the convention center Travel Salem, if the collections are lower, they
They get
receive
less.
less, but the operators still receive what they were promised based on this. But if the funds are higher, they get the 25 or the 10% based on the collections, and the remaining goes into the next year's starting fund balance.
Any questions? We look for a motion for adoption or approval.
I'll move for approval. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Portion is the review of the February data for Cultural Tourism Fund. The collections for the first 6 months, 2.7 million, versus last year 2.67 million. So a difference of almost 65,000 or 2.4% higher than what we were last year. Expenditures are on target with the budget proposals. Any questions? Here we have the month over month collections for the last few years. So you can see kind of any trending pattern in that.
I can tell you from a hotelier standpoint, March is starting to make the year look brighter. It was not very positive for hoteliers in November, December, and January. So it's definitely starting to look up. ADRs are starting to improve. There's still a long way to go for people to not be panicked, myself included. As a hotelier, but it's summer's coming, lots of different, the events that'll help me bringing people to Salem will be very, very welcomed. So
The next piece of information is second quarter facility operator report from Salem Multicultural Institute. All we have.
all right.
We want to go over notes for what we have for parking lot lists?
Please, yes.
That, okay. I have, for parking lot lists, adding limit the number of, a discussion about limiting the number of event grant applications allowed here, whether that's one large or whether that's one large and one small options. And then tied to that is a discussion around the funding level of $10,000 per grant application versus something less than that, whether that's 7,500 or whether that's 8,000. It's up for discussion. Is there any other parking lot items that I may have missed?
100-point scale instead of a 25. To create a little more.
So going back to that from what it was years ago.
Did it used to be like
It used to be.
that? Why was the reasoning for going back down to 25?
The rubric, it was a rubric thing.
Easier calculation.
The old
supposedly.
rubric.
Somebody that
The
had
calculation.
statistics background.
You're just shrinking it by 1/4. You know?
Was there one about making facility operators equal being a standard?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll see what we need to do. That one. And, I think we'd like to see the long-term plan for facilities.
Is that a Mark Bechtel thing or is that somebody else now? Or?
It's a facility.
Oh. You know, Mark's talked about Wallace Street Park and different things before, but
Wanting to know what the 5-year plan is for capital improvements to the city on historic buildings.
missing anything?
Yeah, I know we had previously voted on pursuing the potential option of moving to a 3-year grant cycle for facilities if the opportunity presented itself. So we can maybe just keep that in the parking lot, even though we made a motion to pursue that opportunity if it arose.
That would be outside of the current policy C1.
Yeah.
Annual.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, definitely.
Hearing anything else, we can open up to roundtable discussion on apparently interested citizens. Anybody want to go first or? We have people online too, yes, Chris? Yes, we do.
All right. So do we want to start with people online or?
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay, so we've now reached the point in the agenda for organizations to share what's coming up in their events. So let's see. The first person I have looks like Jackie.
Hi, I'm Jackie Grow. I'm here representing Family Building Blocks. Thank you so much for your recommendations regarding the TOT grants for events. We'll be holding the annual Riverfest, which really is more localized, but this year with funding, if finally approved, we plan to, well, the event itself is really for the community. And it's a healthy event, really family focused. A lot of the activities we have are for families, and all the vendors who come, they must bring an interactive family activity. It's a way for bonding. We typically, most of our population is pretty diverse. But this year with funding, we really want to go out to some other communities outside of Salem and try to recruit families to come learn more about our services. As you may know, Family Building Blocks is a relief nursery. All of our services are free to families. The services really span from parenting education to classroom services for families, those who really have struggles with trying to manage circumstances such as poverty, um, unemployment, underemployment, abuse of themselves or addiction. We really try to wrap around all of our supports with the family. So this is a chance to really reach out to the community, let them know of our services, and invite them in. What attracted us mainly with this grant was the advertising component. We have seen and recognized that we've really been sort of communicating with the same families. Now we really want to reach out to others and bring them into the community and bring them into Family Building Blocks. So any questions?
I just hate to put you on the spot, but Family Building Blocks, you guys do a great job. You're a great service organization. I actually scored your proposal pretty low because I didn't see a cultural part of it. I saw it as a service fair, basically. So in future, if you're applying for cultural funding, putting some cultural, an element of cultural events or something into that. So invite some of the organizations who do music or do dancing or do some cultural part of it, because otherwise it comes across as a totally, perfectly fine service fair, but it really isn't in our purview to fund service fairs. We're supposed to be funding cultural opportunities. So I would suggest that even for planning for this year, think about how you can incorporate that. And that ideally would also make more families come because they'll see it as an interesting event. So that would be my suggestion.
No, that's great feedback. Thank you.
Any other questions? Matt, we'll move on to if Lynn Takata is there from Eaglewood Forest Festival. She's the next one on the list. I guess Lynn's not with us right now. How about next person is Casa de la Couture. Paula.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for the opportunity this evening. And we as Casa, would just like to thank you for allowing us to keep promoting our culture through our events. Our annual Dia de Muertos event is getting bigger every time with, inviting local artists and other artists around the Oregon to come and perform and promote culture and dance and music at our event. And, within our organization, right now we have over 100 students, ages from 4 years old up to adults. So it just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and that allows them to bring their families and to enjoy a full day of entertainment, cultural activities, educational activities as well, and also just a day to celebrate our loved ones for our annual Dia de Muertos event. So we would like to keep inviting, and also for Family Building Blocks, if they're looking for entertainment, please reach out to us. We would be more than happy and glad to come and perform at one of your events as well.
Thank you. Rochelle?
Oh, yes. I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, but since I have the opportunity, we actually have a concert this Saturday. So anyone who's there or interested in coming and seeing a nice spring chamber string concert, we're playing a John Williams piece called A Prayer for Peace and some other really fun string ensemble pieces, and it should be really great. And also, if anyone has any feedback, this was our first time doing this and I wasn't quite sure what all you guys were looking for. So thank you so much for approving everyone. And if anyone has any feedback, I would be totally open to it.
Michelle, where's your event at this weekend?
Time and location?
Oh, yes. So we are playing at the Salem First Church of the Nazarene on Market Street, and it's this Saturday, the 16th at 7:30 p.m. So there's an event on our Facebook page, and then you can also find tickets through our website, which is salemorchestra.org.
Thank you.
Go around the room. First row or the back row?
So William Master Forest just finished their winter concert, so we have one left in the season, and it's not until May 4th and 5th, and it is a entire J.S. Bach concert, so it's something the whole year has kind of had a great variety of pop music, and we're gonna end it with something very classical and do broader marketing to do even some creative thing to make people wonder why they want to go to a Bach concert. Like, you know, what does this movie have in common with the Willamette Master Chorus? And it's like, oh, they both have Bach music. And so try to get it a little bit more user friendly to people that don't want to go to a Bach concert. And so I'd like to say thank you for this was not a difficult, this was a difficult process. And I love that you landed on what you landed on, because I believe that support for the smaller startups is more important than those of us that have been established. Thank you.
So what we've got going right now is Family Clay Sunday. We've been having more than 100 people come each week. It's been a wonderful mix of generations and cultures. I have a super facilitator who is a true educator and is used to working with folks who have different abilities. One of my favorite moments was an older guy with his wife who apparently had dementia, and they came in and they sat side by side and they built things. Hers was kind of rough, his was fine, but they had this amazing outing where they got to be in a community, and it makes your heart swell. And we don't have any big things happening except for classes starting, and then our usual empty bowls in the artist village. So ramping up for that.
Chris Darcy with the Oregon Artist Series Foundation, and we have a show at the Convention Center and the library. Nancy Eng, born and bred in Salem. She went to Englewood Elementary, Parish Middle School, North Salem High School. We're excited about that. And we've added a couple of pieces for the permanent collection at the Convention Center. 2 works by Nick and Sloyd, live in Northeast Portland, and 2 long-term loans, one by Gary Westford, show coming up at the Hallie Ford, and John Colbert, who lives across the street from Bush Park. So lots going on.
Your marketing is effective. I have a lot of people when the convention center isn't closed, let them up to get to see the second floor of the gallery. So that's fantastic. So
good, thank you.
Yeah.
Sean Olbram's Hallie Ford Museum of Art. We've got a couple of great exhibitions up right now. Willem Volker's View from Here. It's an exhibition of sort of mixed media pieces that combine painting, found objects, and neon. Willem immigrated to the United States. He was born and raised in Holland, immigrated to the United States in the early 1950s. A lot of his work just deals with the whole kind of immigrant experience and the joyfulness that he felt about coming to America after having lived through World War II in Holland with the Holocaust. So that exhibition is up through the end of the month. We also have a wonderful exhibition up called Singular Visions, which is work by self-taught artists from the permanent collection. And these are artists who have really no formal art training, but have sort of taught themselves. And we have a large group of work which we actually recently purchased for the permanent collection by neurodivergent artists living here in Oregon. So we're slowly beginning to build our self-taught collection. We did a couple of programs a couple of weeks ago that I've been able to get into the last TOT meeting. I was locked out. I was old. But we're partnering. We got a new partnership now with Living Studios, which is part of the Cornerstone Group in Corvallis. And they're offering art classes for people on the autism scale, neurodivergent people. And we did a couple of all abilities workshops at the museum a couple of weeks ago, and Bruce Burris, who's the artistic director, gave a lecture about his work and kind of his work with these different communities. So it's very exciting. We're really excited about that new partnership. Coming up this spring, we've got our senior art majors exhibition, we've got a solo exhibition for Alexandra Opie. And one thing I'm really excited about is we're entering into a new partnership with the Port of Portland. They're going through a major renovation of the airport, and we're working with Wendy Gibbon, who's their art project coordinator, and we're going to have a permanent presence at the Portland airport beginning in the fall of 2025. So hopefully we're going to start with showing off pieces from the Museum of Contemporary Craft collection, which we inherited a couple of years ago, but over time we use those spaces as an opportunity to show different aspects of our permanent collection. Hopefully, drive people to Salem. Yeah, that's what we're doing.
Is anybody doing any art for the Salem Airport? It looked pretty sad when I was there.
Yeah, I don't know.
It seems like an opportunity.
There you go. Well, yeah.
Promote your places.
They're applying for funding to be able to expand the terminal, and the city's moving their offices over to the old Hertz building. So that will create more space for them to rent to TSA and improve the baggage. And they're hoping to woo in a second or third airline here shortly. So yeah, so it'll definitely, but I don't recall exactly how much the funding for building a second story, but they've got to move the air control center, because that's they need to move that so that they can add a second story to the terminal for vision. So
things are popping over at World Beat Gallery. We have a current exhibit on spring celebrations around the world, and you'll be interested to know that many of them involve water parades. There's a Songkran in Thailand rather that involves water parades, and I just think that's absolutely delightful, especially good way to end good winter. Our next exhibit is going to be on Ukraine, that will open on May 3rd. There'll be a lot of different workshops with Ukrainian artists and performers throughout the time of that exhibit. It's tied into the Loki Festival, which this year the focus country is Ukraine. We're not political, so we're having to walk my mind with a lot of that. I just feel like Henry Kissinger sometimes, or I don't know who. That ages me.
You're no Henry Kissinger.
But yeah, one of the classes is the Ukrainian folk dancing and singing presented by one costume, and Ina is an ethnomusicologist from Kiev, and she left the country with her daughter. Her husband's still there. He was conscripted into the Ukrainian army. She's an amazing performer. She had a group in Ukraine. She was interviewed on CNN a couple of weeks ago. It's just been a really fantastic group of women to work with. The group they are associated with does raise money to send medical supplies to Ukraine and provide mental health counseling for people in Ukraine, remote mental health counseling in most cases. During spring break, we're going to do origami class at 1 o'clock on Tuesday, March 26th, and that's free and open to everybody. And we'll also have little crafts for kids and families to do if they could.
Hi, Michelle with Willamette Heritage Center. Shout out to Carly. Thank you for this wonderful new program. And I'm glad she brought this to me because it actually I can cheat and read from there about our exhibit that's coming up. On March 22nd, we're going to be opening the Pacific Northwest Community Coral Reef Project exhibit, which is going to be a room-sized walkthrough exhibit of a life-size coral reef. It's going to be made from fiber artists around the world in partnership with Coral Knit Fiber Arts. So it's going to be really cool. It's going to be a walkthrough exhibit of fiber artists displaying things around coral reefs. In March, we're also doing spring break activities on the 1st day of spring break on the 25th, we're gonna have a low sensory day for individuals with special needs that can come in, and we're gonna have the exhibits open with, things are gonna be a little bit more quiet and calm for them to go through the exhibits. On Wednesday of spring break, we have an activity for, we have more activities for kids and their parents to participate in, and of course, we'll be open all week as well for spring break. April 5th is our annual spring gala, and our theme this year is rebuilding legacy, because we're going to be talking more and more about preservation and the preservation of our buildings, which we have 14 historic buildings on our site, and we're 100% responsible for maintaining them. and we're going to be talking about preservation and trying to create a preservation plan for all 14 of those buildings. So our gala is going to be kind of kicking that off on April 5th. And then Chief Tashal is coming around the corner in May.
Sally Litchfield, with the Elsinore Theater. We just had Amy Grant at the theater the end of February and had an almost sold out house. Our movie last month for our disabled adult community, we had 180 there, which we felt really great about. Coming up this Sunday, we have the Glenn Miller Orchestra, which last time they were supposed to be here, it got canceled right before COVID, with the beginning of COVID. And we have about 675 people coming for that. Then we have a Led Zeppelin and Van Halen tribute band. And then Larry the Cable Guy is coming April 6th. And then we switch back to comedy April 13th with Felipe Esparza and his Big Food Tour. That's it.
Well, we've got a lot going on at Deepwood. We have our horticultural tours and plant sale coming up March 22nd and 23rd, and the erythronium in our nature trails are behaving nicely, and it looks like it's going to be a great chance for people to get out to the trails and around there and see the erythronium. Last year they weren't kind to us, and they didn't bloom in time for it. We moved it a week later. And then we have spring break activities going on. We're participating in the spring break passport activity that the Capitol does, and glad to have some of the other organizations participating in that as well. It serves not just to bring people into the market, but also as an option for those who don't go away on spring break. So it gives them kind of a staycation option, which is nice. In April, we will have organizations, over 15 other organizations, members will be coming to Deepwood, and also we invited Holly Ford to join us for that this year. So they'll be coming from Portland, over the Columbia River Gorge, along the coast, and their members from these other organizations get treated as Deepwood members to come and have tours. So it brings in a lot of out-of-town visitors. In fact, it brought in so many last year, we said we can't do March and spring break ever again. It was a scam promotion. It was just too many. In April, we're going to have a parasols and umbrellas exhibit. So we're going with the April showers. Bring May flowers as we get into the full May blooming on the grounds. And May 1 kicks off our rental season on the ground. And I'm happy to say, especially to our hoteliers, that the wedding season is looking like it's going to be a really great. So we love to see that, because it brings a lot of people in from out of town, as well as providing an option in town. So come see us at Deepwood.
Alicia Bay, Gilbert House Children's Museum. We continue to see record-breaking attendance at the facility, and really grateful for investment of this board in Gilbert House. We're anticipating a busy spring break and enjoying some nice weather, which always brings more people. We received a $75,000 grant last month from the Salem Foundation that we're using to continue making improvements to our outdoor spaces adjacent to the big project that we opened last June.
Jenna Ingram, Oregon State Capitol Foundation. Obviously, most of our activities rely on the opening of the Capitol, so we're really looking forward to 2025 and 26. We are using this time, though, during the closure, except for the last 30 days where there was a lot of activity. We're using this time to strengthen the partnership with the legislative administration and the administrator. We are working on a memorandum of understanding that will encompass events as well as displays and exhibits within the Capitol. Some of the things we're looking forward to, we're hoping that the Capitol will open in all of its glory late 2025, early 2026. We have so many things that we've just placed on hold, like the unveiling of the refurbishing of the Liberty Bell that's out front. That's been moved. Obviously 4th of July that they're talking about some sort of event there. The unveiling of the governor's portraits, bringing those historical artifacts back into the Capitol and doing some sort of ceremony. So we're pretty excited. And as I said, we're using this time right now to solidify and be creative with legislative administration so that we're all on the same page moving forward.
How are the cherry blossoms doing?
Oh, right.
It's warming up a little bit.
It is.
Starting to bloom in my neighborhood, so hopefully.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I just saw.
The flowering plums are going in.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's going to be a 3-week kind of that increases our office instead of the weekend. Thank you for asking.
I'm Beth Nephew and I'm with Kaylee of the Valley Society. You're asking about upcoming events. Saturday, we are having a St. Patrick's Day walkabout. We assemble at the Salem Riverfront Park at 11:30. We are led, the walkabout actually begins at noon. We're led throughout the park and into the downtown corridor by Willamette Valley Pipes and Drums. The walk takes about an hour. Wear green, have fun. A lot of different cultures actually participate in it because they like to walk behind pipes, I think. But you're all welcome to come. There's no charge for that. We had contacted the city of Salem to make sure that the Jerry Frank Amphitheater was lit in green for the St. Patrick's Day season. So I'll be looking forward to see if that truly happens. We have ongoing events that are our regular dance classes, which are Tuesday nights. It's happening now. And our Kayleys are the second Friday of the month, always with live music. In April is International Dance Day. So we have contacted the Salem Saturday Market and we'll be dancing there at 10 o'clock on the 27th. So we'll put out more marketing via social media rather than any posters you'll see around town, which we think up too. And otherwise, we have applied to, we will be applying to Salem Art Fair. We've applied to Inglewood Forest Festival. We're out and about at all activities that want to have us. We go to diversity fairs at grade schools and perform regularly, as well as assisted living facilities in the greater Willamette Valley area. So that's it.
Yes, I forgot to mention one thing that Deepwood we just added to our schedule, working in partnership with Lord and Scriber Conservancy and the Mission Street Parks Conservancy. On April 6th, we're going to have a free walking tour that starts at 10 in the morning and goes until about 1, and it will start at Gaiety Hollow, then it will go across to Bush Park, and then it will go down to Deepwood. And this year we're going to focus on, this is our second year, and this year we're going to focus on historic trees and educating people about historic trees, including things like the process that we have to go through if a tree needs to be removed and how we go about assessing that, and also about getting a tree whether it's your personal tree or one on public property as a heritage tree.
What time does this start?
Starts at 10 a.m. And they can join at 10, 10:45, or at noon at the 3 different places. So you could do it all, or you could do just part of it. Watch our social media, we'll be there.
Salem's available over at And if you want to know about all these events, you can sign up to our free email newsletter and receive it to your inbox. So you don't have to remember all of them. Because I do that for you.
And if you have a TOT event, we do have signs that are available for helping to promote and meet some of the contract requirements of promoting and notifying cities sponsoring this event.
For those.
Yes,
So
thank you.
they are available for use. We just ask you to return them after you're done. Hopefully in decent shape. And then there's banners in the back as well. So those are available. Send an email to Kelly or I and goes out.
I just have another event that I'm a part of. Hey all, Omar Alvarado. So I'm part of this event in May from the Capacitas Leadership Institute. It's a Mexico City style vendor market called Tianguis. So it's gonna be a bunch of vendors, crafts, street food, drinks, activities for the whole family. It's gonna take place Saturday, May 11th, at North Gate Park. Unless we find a bigger facility, I think we might get something bigger, you know, but that's tentative. But either way, North Gate Park on the 11th. That's gonna be like from 2 to 6, and they're gonna send me the portfolio here shortly that I could share with everybody. But it's a great opportunity to meet a lot of the Latino partners that I work with, and I work in the community, nonprofits, cultural facilitators, musicians, and artists. But so everyone's more than welcome. I'll bring some more information next time.
Anyone else on the board? Thank you very much, everybody. This was a hard agenda, but we got done on time. Thank you for the hard work. Appreciate it.
Thank you for doing these. I really appreciate it.
There are plenty too. I just brought 2 over there.
I'm gonna grab a